Tiffany Henyard's time in public office will likely be remembered not for leadership, progress, or policy, but for excess, controversy, and a stunning erosion of public trust. Holding not one, but two powerful elected positions at the same time, mayor of Dalton, Illinois, and supervisor of Thornton Township, Henyard managed to secure an eye-popping income that raised eyebrows far beyond her district. Her total compensation actually surpassed that of the mayor of Chicago, despite Dalton being a much smaller, economically struggling town. But the real shocker, that inflated paycheck wasn't just from her base salary. Henyard pulled in a whopping $282,000 from Thornton Township alone. On top of that, she received a $900 monthly expense allowance and a $100 vehicle stipend. That's not even counting the 2 luxury SUVs. Dalton taxpayers paid for vehicles used by police officers to chauffeur her around town, costing the village well into 6 figures altogether. Henyard was pocketing nearly $6,000 a month in perks alone. All of this in a town dealing with budget shortfalls and cuts to public services. The contrast was staggering. And it didn't go unnoticed. Alarm bells rang from residents, political watchdogs, and eventually federal authorities. The FBI launched a full-blown investigation into Henyard's time in office, covering both Dalton and Thornton Township. Subpoenas have already been issued. Multiple current and former employees have been questioned. The probe is zeroing in on Henyard's spending habits and the questionable decisions she made while juggling 2 major roles. As her term drew to a close this May, the pressure only intensified. Federal agents stepped up their activity. Henyard's political shield gone. And at the same time, the people of Dalton delivered their own verdict. In a landslide primary election, Jason House defeated Henyard and ushered in a new era. His win wasn't just about politics, it was about reclaiming dignity for a community that had had enough. When he stood in front of Dalton officials and took his oath, "I will support thee, Constitution of the United States and the state of Illinois, and faithfully discharge the duties of mayor to the best of my ability," it wasn't just a formality. It was a moment of relief, a symbol of change for House's supporters. It wasn't just a win. It was personal. It invested time, money, and heart into removing an administration they viewed as corrupt and arrogant. Their reaction? Cheers. Applause, even tears. The people of Dalton made it clear they were done with the dysfunction. Henyard's defeat wasn't just a political loss. It was a public rejection, a statement from a community pushed past its breaking point. And now, with the federal spotlight locked on her and political immunity no longer shielding her, the question looms, will charges follow? The signs are hard to ignore: federal raids, stacks of subpoenas, financial red flags, and whispers of witnesses cooperating with authorities. Normally, this kind of smoke means fire. But if you know how the feds move, you know they take their time. Still, there's no denying that things are getting serious. Grand jury activity tied to Henyard has already been confirmed. That alone is a major development. Is an indictment coming? The odds are shifting in that direction. A mountain of documents, testimony, and what looks like blatant misuse of public funds all paint a deeply troubling picture. And people are paying attention, from watchdog groups to national news outlets. The scrutiny isn't going anywhere. Her legacy? It's already stained. Whether she gets indicted, arrested, or vanishes quietly from public life, Tiffany Henyard's name will be forever linked to one of the darkest political chapters in Dalton's history, and the scandals that took her down. It wasn't just one misstep. It was the weight of many. And some of the most disturbing parts weren't just about money, they were about safety and blatant favoritism. One of the most jaw-dropping moments came when it was revealed that Henyard hired Lavelle Redmond, a convicted sex offender and personal friend of hers. This wasn't some petty crime. Redmond had served 25 years for the gang rape and brutal beating of 2 teenage girls, yet Henyard still brought him into the public sector, signing him a job as a code enforcement officer, a role that literally took him inside people's homes. Let that sink in. A man with a violent history against women, handpicked by the mayor. Roaming neighborhoods and entering residences as part of his duties, the outrage was immediate and justified. And it was just one more example of the disturbing pattern under Henyard's rule. Favor friends, ignore red flags. Protect your image no matter the cost to the community. Henyard hired Lavelle Redmond in September, without any board approval, another move that would come back to haunt her. When the media uncovered that Redmond, a registered sex offender with a disturbing criminal past, had been placed on the public payroll, the backlash was swift and intense. He was soon rearrested for failing to comply with sex offender registry requirements. The outrage from the community wasn't just justified, it was explosive. But the scandals didn't stop there. Henyard had developed a notorious reputation, not just for reckless spending, but for rewarding loyalty, especially among her hand-picked personal security team. After becoming mayor in 2021, she began selecting Dalton police officers for private protection, and their paychecks. They ballooned. Overnight, FOIA Freedom of Information Act requests revealed that her security officers routinely reported over 100 hours in 2-week pay periods. One officer, Terry Young, claimed a jaw-dropping 303 hours in just 14 days, earning a staggering $13,000 paycheck, with only 336 hours in a 2-week window. That essentially meant Young was being paid for nearly every waking moment. It sparked serious questions about payroll, abuse, favoritism, and unchecked spending. Meanwhile, as her inner circle enjoyed financial perks, Dalton's budget was going up in flames. Under Henyard's watch, a $6.5 million surplus from 2022 crumbled into a multi-million-dollar deficit by 2024. Financial mismanagement was no longer just a concept, it was a crisis. Trust in the local government evaporated. And it wasn't just about money, it was about power. In one now infamous move, Henyard locked the village trustees out of town hall to stop a scheduled board meeting from happening. Left with no other option, the board conducted their official business in a parking lot. Why? According to trustees, it was all because the meeting agenda included items Henyard didn't want to address, like those Vegas trips and questionable luxury expenses. That's right. While basic services in Dalton were crumbling, Henyard was jet-setting to Las Vegas all on the taxpayer's dime. Though the trip was officially labeled as a visit to a shopping center convention, no records have shown any tangible benefit from it. Even more baffling, trustees claimed they were never told how much the trip cost or why it was happening. At one heated board meeting, trustee tried to deny involvement with the credit card charges for the Vegas trip until they were pressed and finally admitted. Of course I went to Las Vegas. It was another slap in the face to the community. Another reminder of how disconnected Henyard's administration had become from the residents it was supposed to serve. And as if things couldn't get more chaotic, it got physical. Township meeting in Thornton, tensions exploded when local activist Jediah Brown called Henyard a vulgar name during public comment. As he approached the mayor's table, Henyard's supporters, including her boyfriend, rose to confront him. What followed was a full-on brawl. But the shocking twist, Henyard herself reportedly joined in. It was one thing when the guys were fighting, a witness said, but when she jumped in, I was floored. Through all this, through the scandals, the lawsuits, the fights, Henyard continued collecting a massive paycheck. In 2022 alone, her dual roles earned her over $287,000. And as if that wasn't enough, she approved a raise for herself, pushing her total annual compensation past $347,000, surpassing even the salary of Chicago's mayor. By any standard, her time in office had become a cautionary tale. It wasn't just about incompetence. It was about arrogance, dysfunction, and disregard for the people of Dalton. Once backed by powerful allies and propped up by political connections, Henyard had once seemed untouchable. But in the end, the mountain of scandals proved impossible to ignore. On election night at 10 p.m., the results were in. Jason House had defeated Tiffany Henyard in a landslide. The margin wasn't close, and the message from voters couldn't have been clearer. Dalton was done. Done with the scandals, done with the chaos, done with Tiffany Henyard. political chapter has closed, the legal one, it might just be getting started.